Good morning, good evening, everyone. So welcome to another webinar by USMLE Sarthi team. And so today's topic is about supplemental ERAS application, but we'll also take questions on other aspect of the application. I quickly want to go over the supplemental ERAS and how you should go about it if you are in one of those specialties that is participating. So we, of course, have a comprehensive class on this for our students. So if you are a Sarthi student, you will have access to the detailed discussion we have done on the SCA or the Supplemental ERAS application. Let's get started. So what is the Supplemental ERAS application? The Supplemental ERAS application or SCA is a 3-section application. It talks about your meaningful experiences. So the most meaningful 5 experiences, plus another experience, we'll talk about that, geographic preferences, and finally, preferential signaling. So you can actually select the programs that you are more interested in. And I'll have details on each of these. So this is in addition to the main ERAS application, the ERAS CV you're all used to, and it was introduced in the last season. So this year will be the 2nd season. Now, which specialties are participating in SCA? There are about 15 of such specialties, but the most important IMG focus specialties are internal medicine, neurology, pathology, psychiatry, and of course, general surgery, anesthesia, and others like dermatology are also there. So our focus, of course, is the IMG focused specialties. The other thing you need to remember is not all programs in these specialties may be participating in the supplemental ERAS application. So the programs have to choose whether they can participate or not. Although the number of programs over last year, especially in internal medicine, has increased, but still you should check the specific requirements of each program and the specialty. The AAMC does provide a list of these residency programs that are participating, so you should take a look at that. And then the other question, when can you submit the SCA? So the SCA can be completed now. It opened on August 1st, and you can submit by September 16th. So in about 12 days, you can submit it. Of course, you have to register for an ERAS token, and you will get an email invitation to complete the supplemental ERAS application. Okay, so now let's move on to the questions on the supplemental ERAS application. So like I said, it is divided into 3 sections: the previous experiences, the geographic information, and preferential signaling. Now, for each of the previous experiences, this is the first thing, you'll need to enter the basic information about what was the role, how engaged you were, the title, name of the organization, so on and so forth. And then, of course, you can use the clinical experiences, research, volunteer experiences that is, you feel differentiate you and are unique to you. Before I proceed, a lot of students ask us, which one of the following is the most important? And in our opinion, it is the program signaling. And then we'll talk about the selecting of the geographic regions as well. So program signaling seems to be the most important one. Now, coming back to the past experiences, meaningful experiences section, our tip is first to draft the experiences in your My ERAS application. That's always a good place to start, and you should have started now. You still have till 16th, but that'll give you a lot of information that you can use in the SCA. Of course, try to identify the experiences that show certain skill, that show your passion and what is more important for you. Any 5, but remember there is a character limit. Character limit is 300 characters. And if you look at it, it'll not be more than a few lines, maybe 4 to 5 lines. Then the other thing in this past experiences is the impactful experiences section. So this is, if something so impactful happened in your life or background, and that you cannot provide elsewhere in the ERAS application, because the ERAS application talks about your work experiences, research, volunteering, but there may have been issues in your life that are not identified anywhere else. This would be a very good section. A lot of students have been impacted by COVID over the past 3 years. They may have had personal experiences of having undergone some tragedy, or there may be financial issues or something else, any obstacle that you've overcome. This would be the time to mention it. Of course, not everyone has had to go through it. So this is probably something you can skip if you feel so. There is also a character limit on this. This is a 750 character limit, so maybe about 10 lines. The other mistake that a lot of students do in this, considering what we saw last year and some of it this year, is repeating the sections and repeating from ERAS application. So choose something that highlights the value you added, maybe the learnings, and that would be the best way, not to repeat line by line what you have in the ERAS. Then the second section is the geographic information section. You can select up to 3 of the 9 geographic sections where you want to do the residency. And our advice, especially if you are visa seeking, is not to have a preference. So you can actually select whether you don't have a preference or leave it blank. So you should actually select and say you don't have a preference. And if you are a visa seeking applicant, that of course gives you the wider net. Of course, there may be individual cases. You may have a family there, or there may be other issues. In that case, of course, you are free to select one of those regions. But in general, if you have actually no preference, so then select that I do not have preference. Now, of course, if you are a citizen, if you have a green card, you may already have ties to the region, and you can explain that, and probably one of those regions you can select. So that's on the regions. Now, on the urban and rural, it's also not that important, but so you can select I do not have a preference for either urban or rural. But remember, urban areas tend to have more competition. So if you feel your application is weak because of some red flags or some other issues, you can select rural, but you can keep it open. Most students should keep it open without any preferences. Most important part of the application, in our opinion, is the preference signaling. As you know, in internal medicine especially, you can select 7 programs that you can signal, and it varies with the specialty. So different specialties have different signaling. So this is where you tell the program you are interested in that program. Now, of course, how to select this becomes important. If you have done a rotation there, if maybe you have done research with a faculty there, electives, externships, that may be a good idea. Also is a good idea to look at the IMG match percentage. Sarthi students do have another list where you can look at how a typical program has invited students of which profiles, so scores, year of graduation, visa status. So look at all that and then select the programs. Of course, if you, like I said, if you have connections in the program, you may have done rotations, you may have other connections, that is always a good idea. But again, remember, for a typical IMG applicant applying to 150 to 200 programs, you are limited to only 7. So select them with some due diligence. This would be, if there is one section that the program will look for, it could be this one. Now, of course, then we also took a look at typical mistakes that the students tend to make in the SCA. First, of course, is not filling the application. It will take a couple of more seasons for us to analyze completely how this is being used. But ignoring this application, if your specialty is participating, is a big mistake. So don't take that risk and fill that application out. Okay. The second, like I mentioned, do your ERAS application first. Most of the information it will be there, and you have to build on the ERAS application. So if you do the ERAS application first and do it parallelly, it will make more sense. Third, of course, is applying on time. So 16 September, make sure SCA goes in. The ERAS deadline is 28 September. So there are two separate deadlines. Just remember that. The other kind of mistake students tend to do is in their SCA, they say, refer to my ERAS application. So that's not how you need to do it. You really need to explain it in the supplemental ERAS. Programs may or may not look at both of them together. Do not copy paste the entire experience from the ERAS CV. You need to focus on the value you added and the learnings you got from that experience, and just put that in the SCA, limited because of the limit of the characters, 300 characters. If you're a recent graduate, maybe experience in the medical school or internship will help. Older graduates, this is another mistake we have seen. You really have to focus on your most recent experiences in externship, in research and others. Do not go back 10 years ago and talk about your medical school or internship experience. That's not going to help you. Then always remember that your profile, the programs you signal, the profile has to align with the program. So don't signal programs which may you otherwise feel that you're not getting an interview from. So if the IMG match rate is 0%, or you have very low scores, you have other red flags. So keep all that in mind and use the signals wisely. Of course, pay due diligence and pay attention to how you fill the ERAS application in terms of the grammar, sentence structure, and so on. You never know how much they will read or not read. So don't rush. You still have about 2 weeks. Take your time and fill the application. And of course, like I said, our students get that application as well. So we have a full class. All right, that was all. Thank you very much. Hopefully we answered your questions. The last thing is, this season tends to be stressful this time of the year. Do not get depressed. Do not get stressed. You will all get through it. Remember, you will all get through it. This is not the end of the life for you. This is not the end of the world. People do make mistakes. Some of you may not match, but that does not mean that life is ending. This process tends to be a bit long, and this time between September and November is very, very stressful. Just keep up, join the groups, join our Telegram group, open group, keep motivating each other. All right. Thank you, everyone. Have a good rest of the weekend.